Let's go.
Let's do this.
Hi, Dumelang. Yeah, so my name is Nozinhle. It means, what does it actually mean? I think it means pretty. Well, okay, so Zinhle means they are pretty. No is normally like an added prefix for like close words. So like Nomalanga. Okay, let me say Nguni words, names. Yeah, so I used to have a British accent because from ages 10 to 22, I stayed in the UK. Then after that, I did a thing and decided to move back to South Africa with like, I think I had like £200 in my bank account, which obviously is not much. I didn't have a job. I didn't even have a bank account. I didn't have a South African bank account. It was just a hot mess. But yeah, so what can I say? That's really me. I like music. Collect records. I love the sun. Wherever the sun is.
What's your favorite record at the moment?
So it changes a lot, but my friend got me Miles Davis for my birthday, and it's like perfect for the mornings. Like, you know, when you're trying to just get into a routine, have some coffee, because it's not too loud, but it's not too quiet, literally. So yeah, I'm really liking that record. So yeah, that's my favorite record at the moment. I love my family. I love my car. I love the sun. I love some savannah, which I'm having right now. But yeah, that's essentially me.
We love to hear it. Okay, so where in England did you grow up?
I grew up in Basingstoke. My parents never moved. They bought the house 2005. Then we arrived 2006 or that summer. So yeah, we've never moved. Always been in Basingstoke. My mom did want to try out London, but she was worried because my older brother was 16 at the time, so she was just worried that he might get into like gangs and knife crime and stuff. So yeah, I think I said born and bred.
Don't claim Basingstoke like that.
I think Basingstoke is southwest of England. I'm only saying that because the train I get onto London is called Southwest Trains, or the collective trains rather. But yeah, damn!
You're dying to say it.
Grace in Basingstoke.
So before you moved to South Africa, had you always lived in Basingstoke, or had you gone outside of Basingstoke for like school?
I went to Oxford Brookes, so that was my only stint of going outside of Basingstoke. So I studied law at Oxford Brookes, which is quite an experience because Oxford Brookes is not like a red brick university or whatever they call it, but there is a lot of like upper middle class or just upper kids there. A lot of like trust fund babies, a lot of people with money. And not money to say like I drive, I don't know, like just like money, like long money. So that was
like
such an experience because Basingstoke is not like I don't know, it's a working class area. You do get the posher parts, like I don't know, you do get the posher parts like in any area, but I think predominantly it's a working class area. So moving from that to being surrounded by kids that literally like one of my flatmates, her dad for second year bought her like a house to stay in, and I was like, "Did you say bought or rent?" She was like, "No, bought." I was like, "What?" So yeah. Besides my stints at Oxford Brookes, oh, actually, I'm lying. I also went to London. I forgot.
That was because you used to work in London.
When they say like when you're depressed, like certain moments of your life you just like cut them out. Like I stayed in South East in Bermondsey, Might be wrong, but yeah, I stayed in Bermondsey, which was like quite like nicely centrally located. So I stayed there for a year. That was a year before I moved to South Africa. So yeah, I stayed in Oxford for 3 years, and after Oxford, I went to London for a year.
How did when you told your friends and families that you were about to move to South Africa, what was the reaction? What was the general reaction?
So I came to South Africa for my brother's wedding in 2017. And prior to that, I was in a really space in terms of like law school and everything I was going at the time. And funny enough, I was quite open with my parents. So I would tell them that, listen, like I'm really struggling. It was an amount of reasons, you know. But yeah, my parents knew that I wasn't happy. My friends know because I'm not that type of person to just voluntarily give that information out unless it's like, like it's obvious, you know. But yeah, so my friends and family, okay, my family, to be honest with you, are really supportive. It wasn't even like something that we discussed at length. I came to my wedding in January 4th, and I think my mom bought me my ticket like a couple of weeks later because I was broke and I didn't have money. So I said, no, I'll pay you back. And I don't think I paid her back actually. But she bought me my one-way ticket. My dad was like, okay, try and finish law school, post-grad. And then, if you can't, it's fine. If you want to go home, that's also, up to you. So my parents, which I'm really thankful for, didn't make me feel like I was doing like a big thing. They were just really casual about it. Yeah, my friends, I can't remember their reactions to be honest. I don't think I discussed it at length with many people. I think only like the week before or like when I was actually here, then people were like, oh yeah, she actually said she wanted to do that. But I didn't discuss it at length because there was no plan to it. So I guess to answer that question, I did have the support that I needed to make that move.
And even speaking now that you've been in South Africa for such a long time now, like, do you think the move was a good play for your mental health?
Perfect. I don't regret it. Like, I've never once felt like, okay, I lie. When my nephew was born, I kind of wanted to be there. Like I felt like I was missing out and like he would grow up not knowing me and all that kind of stuff. That was the only time I felt not regrets, just missing out. Like I didn't feel regrets. Given the choice, I would still be here. But I don't think I could have done anything more perfect for my mental health, personally speaking.
And even just like the courage it takes to be so decisive and to make such a big move when you only have £200 is flipping huge, that it takes a lot of courage and trust in yourself. Yeah, it takes a lot of trust and courage in yourself because you have to make a way. Because where's £200 going to take you?
You definitely do.
Where
You
is
definitely do.
£200?
And the thing is, once I got here, that's when I realized the magnitude of the decision that I'd taken. And that's when I think I got the real sense of my decision and how other people perceived it. In terms of, for me, I knew that I was going to have to struggle to get to a position where I'm comfortable, but I was okay with that. But other people, and at the time, I obviously had a thick British accent. I've lost it because I have a weak tongue. But at the time, I had a thick British accent, and even like in stores, say someone would be like, "Oh, you're here on holiday." I'm like, "No, I moved back here." They were like, "What? How did you do that?" Like everyone, like there was no one. I think there was one lady that was like, okay, yeah, I get you because of the weather, but no one was understanding what I was doing. Like, I mean, here in South Africa, not my family and friends back in the UK. I mean, here in South Africa, even some of my family and friends here, they were just like, go back. Like, what are you doing here? And I would try to explain to them that this is not something that I'm doing for fun. Like, I genuinely need a peace. I mean, a break from what I've been going through. And I want to try this out. But even me saying that mentally, this is what I need, people are like, no, just go back. Like, yada, yada, yada. So I think once I got here, that's when I started to feel like, okay, so people really think I'm crazy for doing this. But to me, I think because of just not stubborn, but I try to always do what I want to do, regardless of what, other people might think or whatever. So I think that helped me a lot. Otherwise, if I just listened to people, I would have gone back. Not saying that I wouldn't been successful or whatever if I'd gone back, but I don't know if I'd be as happy if I'd gone back.
England is bad vibes. England is bad vibes. Like, it's actually crazy. And of course, like, people back home don't understand that. They don't understand that because obviously, like, the vision that they have for what this place is like is completely removed from the reality of this place, completely removed. So,
And I think for me, what also was confusing was that the people, I mean, just by virtue of the groups that I was moving around in, it was people that had access to go to the UK. The people that maybe had parents there, or people that, their companies do like secondments in the UK and all those kind of things. So for me, it was confusing because if for example, I was in, the township or like in the village, and someone there was saying, "Oh, I'd love to go to the UK." I'm not saying that they wouldn't understand, but if they haven't even been to like a city, I don't expect them to understand me when I say the UK isn't what it was for me as it is for everyone. But I felt like people that have genuine access, like people that literally can go to the UK, or rather in some cases had been to the UK, I was just like, I'm not the Department of Home Affairs. Like, I don't control the border. If you want to go to UK, like go to UK. So I think that also was what made me a bit more like stubborn to say, why are you telling me to go to the UK when you can literally get on the plane and go? This is not a difficult choice for you. So I think that also helped as well because I was like, this person is just talking just to talk. But yeah.
With regards to like culture shock, right? Everyone experiences it differently. The time frame and the time like duration at each stage everyone goes through is really different because obviously, like we were saying before we started recording, is that you were going to South Africa in a context that was different to what you were doing before. Because obviously when you were 10, you can't really compare to that time. But every other time you'd gone was for holiday for a short amount of time. What were some of the difficulties that you had around like settling in as a resident?
Damn, I don't know where to begin. But all right. I think if I was just to give some background, so in South Africa, I'm originally from Guatemala, which is a township, right? So that's where we lived until I might be getting the numbers wrong, until we was about 7. I was about 7. And then we moved to the suburbs, but the suburbs were not in Johannesburg. So say like for example, they were not in London. So maybe they were in Surrey or whatever. So when I came back, that was my first. I then stayed in Joburg and I stayed in Midrand, Randburg, Sandton, whatever. That was first of all, that was my biggest culture shock because that was my first time staying in the city. So and people expected me to like know like the nuances of staying in the city, and I was like, guys, I'm literally a township kid. And people used to think that I was like begging to be like ghetto or whatever. But I was like, no, like I've never stayed in Sandton. I've never stayed like literally stayed, not like come because obviously for my brother's wedding we did stay in Joburg. But that was like 3 weeks. So I think that was a big culture shock for me because you get to see like another side that you've just never seen. Like people just I speak English obviously, but most of the times I'm in South Africa, I'm in a township, so English is not my first go-to. So but being surrounded by Black people that speak like the highest levels of English, and I'm just like, what? Like what's going on? Are we putting this on or is this for real? And it sounds crazy to say that, but that was one of my culture shocks. And I think another thing, just a smaller thing, was how everyone greeted you. Living in Basingstoke, living in London, it's not something that you see. Like if someone greets you in London or Basingstoke, I'm sure you'd be like, what's going on? But here, because when I first moved, I didn't have a car, so I was using public transport a lot. Everyone greets, no matter how early it is. Because when I was staying on my aunt's place, I used to get two taxis to work. So I used to leave at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And people agreed. And I'm like, girl, I haven't even gathered my thoughts, you know. But as time went by, I started to really enjoy it because it just gives you a sense of community. It gives you a sense of like, okay, I'm here, you know, I'm being acknowledged and all those kind of things. On the other hand, sometimes I was seen as quite rude because, like, say I'm going into a shop and I'm asking someone, hey, you know, where can I find this? The person would be like, you know, greet me first. And in my mind, I was like, I said, hey, I don't need to ask how you're doing. I don't need to, you know, all these things. I'm in a rush. I need to find this thing because my Uber's waiting for me, whatever. So I think those two were, and I think my third and final one was, and I think it might be like quite unique to South Africa. Just the, I don't know if disparity is the right word, but just the gaps between poor and rich. Because in South Africa, you get really, 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 really poor. And you get really, 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 really rich. And you don't even have to turn a corner. It can be the same street. You see a grand house with like, you know, the biggest water features, you know, like a water, whatever. Maybe 4 blocks down, you see a squatter camp, you know, people hanging their clothes on the fence and, like a toilet in the ground, those kind of things. And I think I'm lucky enough to have been raised in a township and also, you know, now relocated back. I went to live in the city. So I think I really appreciated that because I can relate. I don't want to, you know, be that person and say, oh, I lived in a shack or in a squatter camp because I didn't, but I did live in a township and I can relate to people that live in the township. And also by virtue of where I am now, I'm not like in Santon, I'm not rich, but I do acknowledge the privilege that I have in South Africa. So I think that, yeah, South Africa has such a issue with that. And because you can, for example, you can be in a restaurant, right? And the waiter will tell you that no, like you just earn tips. And then on the same side, you look at the menu and there's a bottle of like Verb or whatever for like 12,000 rands, and you're like, this waiter probably sees that in like 6 months, you know, and this is like, yeah. So I think those three were my three biggest culture shocks, I would say.
There's like, through what you're saying, there's a lot of like potential feelings of feeling like isolated and frustrated and all of that kind of stuff. Like, how did you then mentally, how did you navigate these different things that you were seeing around you?
I think I just chose to be strong in my beliefs and chose to be strong in what I wanted. And because I knew that, you know, there's no one else that can understand why me being here brings me so much peace and so much joy. And through the times where I tried to explain that to people and they just didn't understand it, I thought, okay, fine, it's clear that I'm here by myself. Literally, because I didn't move back with my family. And, you know, mentally, physically, whatever, I just chose to be strong in my belief to know that, you know what, I know what I feel on the inside and I know how it makes me, you know, be, and, you know, whatever the case may be. So I think just choosing to be strong and choosing not to listen to, I'm not saying don't take, you know, criticism or whatever, but just choosing to know who I am, why I'm here, you know, my journey, where I want to be, where I've come from, all that kind of stuff. I think that was what really made me push through because yeah, it was tough, but yeah.
How were you able to keep drawing from that strength of your family?
Um, you know what, my family didn't really make me feel like I'd moved. If you look at like my WhatsApp call log, like for example, yesterday, I went to a friend's house and then it's quite far, so I underestimated how much petrol I was going to use. So then when I was on my way back, it had like 2 bars. And I was like, okay, either I stop in the middle of nowhere and I put petrol, or I just push and I make it to the highway and I put petrol there. So I called my mom and I said, listen, I was just telling her about my day essentially, but then I added in that, you know, I'm low on petrol, but I don't want to stop here. So eventually I said, okay, I'll call you when I get home. I'm gonna focus because I might get lost. So anyway, I drove, found petrol on the highway. I was literally like 30 Ks to like an empty tank. But I found petrol, I filled up, and then I got home because I was so tired. I just ate and went to sleep. So I didn't text my mom to say that I'm home. I mean, even though she's like 500 countries away. So then now I wake up in the morning and she's like, "Are you okay?" She's texting me. She's like, "I'm waiting for you, yada, yada, yada." And so I think small things like that, I never really felt away from them. Whenever there's an event, they FaceTime me. Like I speak to my mom daily. Me and my mom are quite close, so I speak to my mom daily. Me and my brother are also quite like I'm close with my whole family. So except for the younger ones, but they're teenagers, so you know it's a given that they won't be on their phone this much. Yeah.
And
But
if that, it won't be to their sister, is that?
No, it won't. It won't. I think I'm the last person on their mind. Um, but I think I was lucky in the fact that because a lot of people seem to think that maybe my family sent me back home because I was naughty or whatever, and I was just like, I speak to my mom probably more than you guys do. Like me and my mom, me and my family are in contact a lot. Like even with small decisions. I'll call them and I'll be like, do you think I should buy this? I should get that? Or do you think I should go for this job? Or like they're part of my life and it's not easy to just drop them. You know, it's just distance that keeps us apart. But other than that, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Like I still call my mom to say like, dude, did you see this? And you know, I call my dad. What like nothing has changed. So I think I was quite lucky in that aspect.
It must be quite comforting to know that, like, quite literally, distance has not done anything for you. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like the love and in terms of even feelings of like isolation, they become a bit more minimized if you know that there's such a hub of support waiting for you somewhere. I think love is quite reassuring. Love is quite reassuring. Love is like, I know that sounds corny as hell, but love is quite reassuring. Yeah, and it's beautiful because of that, actually.
Definitely, because I think for me, give one of my biggest things that I had to face was that I am so close to my family, and it was so difficult, excuse me, to make that decision to leave them. Because I was like, hey, how are you doing this? Like, you know, why are you? I'm not saying I'm splitting my family apart, but I was like, you know, like why are you actually doing this? But then I was like, I need to be selfish and do what I want to do and then take it from there. So it wasn't an easy decision. Like I still remember the moment that because me and my mom, for example, the day before I was meant to fly, she had booked a steak dinner for us. I think there was a new steakhouse near like on your way to Brighton Hill or somewhere that just opened. So I was like, okay, let's do it as a farewell dinner, just me and you. The day came to it and we had booked it. I can't remember if we paid a deposit or not, but we had definitely booked it. And then I was like, okay, let's get ready. And she's like, I kind of just don't want to do it. You know, I think because we hadn't really spoken about me moving until like that week. And then so then we didn't do it. And then I think that 24 hours it started to sink in that you're actually leaving your family behind. And then to the airport, I took me, my friend Harriet to Moamba and my auntie and her kids. And then we stopped at my auntie's house first to go pick them up. And then I was like, and the kids obviously didn't know. So she's like, you know, like, Twana, like, where are you going? I was like, no, I'm going to Africa. And I was like, do you want to come with me? I was like, yeah. And then I go to the airport and I check my bags in. And because I was nervous and I was like, let me just go to the other, to like past security. I still had time, but I was like, let me just go. And then, you know, I hugged everyone, like my friends are crying. My auntie was like, why are you doing this? And I was like, oh, whatever. And then it came to my mom and I was like, oh, like I couldn't even look her in the eye. I just closed my eyes and I heard her voice and she was just like, I'm going to miss you, whatever, whatever. And I didn't even have the strength to look her in the eyes and say bye. And then as I was going past security, I was like, am I doing the right thing? But then something in me was like, you know what? She supports me. So, and she wouldn't want me to stay and not, you know, achieve whatever I want to achieve because of, you know, her or whatever. But it was tough. It was tough. I think that's one of like the most emotional moments of my life. Even when she came here in just before Corona, so in March 2019, when she left, it was like going back to that again. And I was like, oh my gosh, should I join her? Should I go with her? But yeah, it was tough, but we are here.
When you arrived, how long did it take you for, obviously, like, to work through that, to process that you're actually there? How long did it take you to process that and to actually start enjoying being in South Africa in this way?
So when I arrived, I think I arrived on the 6th of December. My older brother came on, it was December, yeah, December. My older brother came, I want to say a day later or 2 days later. So for the whole of December, up until him and his wife left in, I want to say around the 5th of January, everything was just holiday season. Like, I didn't look for a job. I didn't open an account. I didn't do nothing. Like, I was just on my brother and wife's side. We were going out, just enjoying. Went down to Durban to see some of his old army mates. I didn't do nothing. Like,
You were
that
on
was just a
holiday as
holiday
well.
season for me. I forgot that these people are going back to the UK and you have to stay here. So I just enjoyed. I just enjoyed that December. And then my brother and his wife left. I don't think I went to no, I didn't go to the airport with them. And then January was when it was like, okay, you're actually here now and you actually have to like do something, you know? So, and bearing in mind, I still didn't have a UK SIM card, I mean, a South African SIM card. I was staying at my uncle's place, and then his kids were like going to school and stuff, I mean, university. So then, I was at home and I was like, okay, yeah, I know it's really here. And then I started to apply for jobs and stuff, and I got my job that I'm the same company I'm working for now in March. So I'd say about 2 months. But in between that, it was a lot of like rejections, a lot of like fake ads, a lot of like finding out things. And for example, I didn't know that I had to convert my degrees to like the South African system. So I couldn't even really apply for jobs until I did that. So yeah, I think from about first week of January until mid-March or end of March, because I started my job in April. It was an internship. So yeah, about 2-ish months it took me to like really get accustomed. And then even then, for me to be like fully independent, was the next year. So March 2000. No, I'm lying, because I got my place in June of that year. So I moved into the place that I stay at now in June of the year. So yeah, but I wasn't fully independent then, because like half my paycheck was going to my rent, and then like a quarter was going to transport, and then the rest like whatever was left over, I needed electricity, food, whatever. So I was independent, but like not in a great shape. But yeah, so let me say 6 months. Let me say 6 months.
6 months. So how did you,
Yeah.
like, obviously through all of this in the first couple of months, there's the rejections and there's the learning and stuff. How did you keep, what was the tools that you used to make sure that mentally you were still able to be strong, to keep believing in what you moved there for?
I think I had to like take it down to like really simple things, because I realized that a lot of the things I used to turn to, I couldn't turn to anymore, in terms of when I was in the UK, I used to like I since I was 16, I always had a job, a part-time job. So if something, and I realized, for example, if something was annoying me, I'll just go to JD, I'll go to office, buy a pair of trainers, and I would forget about that thing for that day. Might come back tomorrow, but for that day, I'm happy. But obviously now I didn't have the money to do a lot of the things that I used to be able to do.
Your
So I
200
just had
pounds
to
didn't
really,
stretch you, eh?
shockingly, it didn't. So I had to like go back to really simple things, like really, really, really simple things. Like for like the sun, I used to really enjoy just going to like There's not many parks. Okay, there are many national parks in South Africa, but not the parks that like we have in Basingstoke that are like just big open fields of grass. But luckily, there's a convention center opposite where I stay. I think it's the second biggest, or if not the first biggest in Gauteng. So the security there is not as tight as it should be. So I used to walk there, take a book or take my earphones, whatever. I'd only put one earphone in so that if someone tries to jack me, at least I see what's happening. But I used to go there, when it was like summer and just sit there, read a book and just be by myself. Or I did start a photography page, which unfortunately I haven't, been keeping up with. But just to take photographs of the really simple things. I think I remember one of my first posts was I was in back in my hometown in Springs, and there was a guy who literally had set up like a curtain, a white curtain, and put like a chair. I think the chair didn't even have like the back of it, so it was just like a stool rather. And he was taking ID photos. So it was like opposite the Home Affairs where you go to take your photos for like license, whatever. And he was charging like 5 rand or whatever. So to me, I was like, oh, that's really cool, and that's like someone just hustling. Like his idea is not like, robotics or like, out of this world, but it's just a simple thing. So I took a picture of that, then I started the page. I also started cooking. It it was, I don't know, like I do enjoy cooking, but it was never something that like I was really into before. But once I came here, I realized that actually it's like an output of energy for me. I do like to now I like to cook and I like to experiment with cooking. I like to do all these kind of things. And then I also started writing. I started writing, and it wasn't writing in terms of like heavy writing. It was just like maybe like a page or two and just putting it on my Instagram or whatever, because it just shared a lot of the questions that people were asking me. So also I can just hit two birds with one stone, whatever that saying is, and just write. But it was really therapeutic because it just feels like you're vomiting on paper, which sounds weird, but it just feels like you're just getting all your emotions out. You're just writing. So I think those things really helped me to just continue forward. And I think without them, I don't think I would have been able to be as strong and as carefree as I could have been. So those really helped me.
You've used I want to come back to your creative ventures in a minute, but like you've used the word strong quite a couple of times, and I just want to have like an understanding of what you mean when you say it. What does strong look like to you, for you, in you? Yeah.
For me, strong looks like acknowledging the wrong that's happening, but choosing to find a way to go forward. Because I'm not a strong person recently I've started going to the gym. I realized I'm actually not even that strong physically. Because I went to pick up the 5 kg weight and I was like, what the heck? Like, this is quite heavy, So I had to take it back down to 4 kg. Yeah, I was like, and then the guy was like, no, once you put this, I put the bar on. I was like, let's take it, let's take it down. So I'm not even strong physically, which is, quite a shock. But for me, being strong is quite literally acknowledging, the situation that I'm in and choosing to get out of it. And also acknowledging that I might not have everyone to help me as I would like, so I have to be strong for myself because, if I even start to get into some of the things that I've faced over the 2.5 years that I've been here, if I wasn't strong, I would have either, God forbid, been, I'm not even going to get into it, but, okay, let me answer the question. For me, being strong is just acknowledging that things are not going my way, but choosing to rather find a way to get out of whatever funk or whatever issue I'm in at that time being, So that's what being strong is for me. That's what I would say. It's not a thing of like I can conquer everything, because you can't, or I can't anyway. But I try to. Like, I really try to, every situation I'm in, I really try to say, okay, this is X, Y, and Z. I don't like X, Y, and Z. So how can I get to the next stop, by myself? I think that's another thing. For me, being strong also kind of correlates with being independent. I do look onto like my family to say, hey, I don't know, this month I'm struggling. Please, can you send me £20, whatever? But even for me to get to that stage, it's like I can probably count the number of times I've asked my family for help, which is not a thing to boast about. It's not great, but that's being strong for me, because I always want to try my way. If it doesn't work, then I can then, lean on to the help of my family or whatever. So yeah.
I love that. We'll always find situations that are not ideal or not what we want them to be, right? And we have to choose how we respond or react in that moment. So I really like that. I really like that.
Definitely.
And I even like the fact that the first is you first. It's you first. Like how are you going to work this out first? And then once failing that, and then reaching out, because sometimes people don't trust their own strength and their own abilities to get things done. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Definitely. And I think acknowledging it is also a really big step, because there's a lot of things that we don't, get through because we don't acknowledge them for what they are, whether it's, your ability, to do things, or whether it's the reason why you don't do things, or your relationships, whatever it is. I think if you acknowledge it for what it is, to say, you know what, I am gaining weight because I don't exercise, I don't do this. But once you acknowledge it, you're like, listen, I've gained weight, so what are we going to do about it? Or, if you're like, okay, listen, each month I'm always left with like 100 rand, like what am I doing wrong? But yeah, that's
how do I move from here? This is beautiful. I wanted to ask you about your creative. I know that you're saying that you don't post as often, but are you still taking pictures for yourself? Are you still writing even if you're not sharing? Yeah.
Yes, I have. So my Apple thingy the other day was like, girl, you have an issue, because I think I have over like 45,000 photos. Just to give you an idea, those photos are only from December of 2019, because I lost my other phone, so I couldn't log in. So all those photos, I lost them. So since I've been here, I've taken around 45,000 photos, and so I had to extend the thing to like a bigger storage plan. So I'm on the biggest storage plan that you can get on Apple, because I take photos of everything. And my friends, you can ask my friends, they'll be like, why are you taking, because there are some areas where you know as a South African, you do not take your phone out here, because they'll take it. But I'll see something and I'll be like, no, I want to document this, so I take photos a lot, like a shocking amount. And I still write, more so journaling, but I also write just to keep track and keep progress of what I'm doing. And because also sometimes I feel like I don't want to burden people with how I'm feeling. I do write, and I do track those. But I don't know. I think one day I would like to write a book about my experiences, or maybe not a book, but just something about my experiences, and how it's been and stuff like that. But I haven't done it. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, I still take photos. Yes, I still write, and I do cook. I did start cooking on TikTok.
So you go cook
TikTok
this is actually
cooking. Kind of fun.
You've got TikTok for cooking. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. That sounds really cool. That sounds really cool. There's a few key things that jumped out for me while we were speaking. And the first, I'm going to work with it backwards, so I hope you remember what you said.
Okay.
So the first one is you said about being a burden, and that was quite interesting to me, because why, as a society, as a people, as whatever, like, why do we feel like that is even a thing? You know what I mean? Like, that's it's interesting that you said that, because I was able to recognize that. I was able to recognize that, and it's a bit like, it's a bit sad. It's a bit sad in that, like, talking honestly about your emotions has been turned into like a burdensome thing, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like that's quite sad. And then obviously, like, a lot of times what you hear, what the truth is that when we actually start to talk, you find that a lot of people are going through like similar things. I'm not saying that someone will understand your burden completely, or like someone will understand whatever is on your mind completely, but this whole, yeah, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. Like, what is that doing in terms of like our relatability to others, if everything we're talking about is then just on a surface level, if we're not actually going to like what is actually bothering us? Because I don't know about you, but if something is on my mind, even as I'm having like a conversation on the top, then my mind is not there. Like, you're talking to my mouth, nothing else.
No, I hear you. And the funny thing is, like, I want to say to my friends and stuff like this, like, I'm calling you to rant, just to get it out there to say I'm not calling you for you to fix this for me or whatever. I just need to tell you how I know that I am at the situation. Then I'm gonna drop the phone. Then it's off my mind. It's, whatever is done. It's in the universe. I can continue on with my day. So I think also as humans we need to remember that if someone is calling you to get out their grievances or whatever, they're not expecting you to fix it for them. They're not expecting you to, unless they explicitly say, listen, can you help me?
Can I have some advice?
Going through something and they need to, yeah. And they just need to tell another human being how they're feeling. It's not that you need to solve their issues or their baby mama drama, whatever. It's just, just be a human, just be empathetic, just be that person, So yeah, I think it's really sad, but yeah.
Because in that moment, you just want to be heard, because that situation, you did not feel heard and you just want to be heard.
Exactly.
So, like,
exactly that. I think
yeah.
that's such a good quote. Exactly that. You just want to be heard. You're not wanting to be fixed or whatever. You just literally just want to be heard. And it's like, okay, since that person didn't listen, let me, come across to this person. Like, for example, I won't say who this is in my life, but there is someone who calls, and sometimes I'm like, because I understand that they're not calling because they actually want to hear my opinion. They just are annoyed and they just need to get out. So I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. And after the call, they feel great. I can go back to whatever
what
I'm
you're doing. Yeah.
Done.
Like, I understand sometimes. I completely understand that sometimes, you're not in the mind frame for that. Like, I completely understand that. And I think that it's important for us to then, like, if someone says, actually, not tonight, that's okay. That's okay too, that's okay too.
That's perfectly fine.
It leads perfectly into like journaling. Have you found then like journaling has been quite good for you in terms of giving you that space of reflection or ranting?
Definitely. I think journaling. I have so many books like that. Some I've finished. I think maybe I finished two. The others I just bought them because they look pretty. But what I really enjoy as well about journaling is reading back. After some time, you can't read it back tomorrow. Give it some months, whatever. And then
when that thing is too irritating you.
Yeah. And then you read it back and you're like, I can't believe I was so hung over this person, or I can't believe that's what I wanted at the time. Or in some instances you're happy. You're like, I actually, because for example, when I started 2019, I was still an intern. My contract was finishing in March. So then I was like, you know what, let me write down what I want for this year. To be fair, I did lose weight that year, but I basically wrote down how much I want to earn in the job that I get after my internship. I wrote down what car I want to drive, down to the make and down to the color. I wrote down where I want to be like at work, like what job I want. I wrote down what I want to study, and where I want to go. So I had a couple of places in South Africa that I wanted to go. And then it was pre-corona, so I also said I wanted to spend my summer in the UK. So obviously that didn't pan out. But the other things, like I read it some time back. The only thing that was a bit different was that I said I wanted my car, but in white. But then obviously I saw it in black, and I was like, come on, there's no way I can't get it in black. But that was nice because like I at the time when I wrote that, those things were not attainable to me. Like there was no way that I knew I was going to get them. It was just me just writing and hope and faith, whatever. So I think journaling really helps you to look back, because sometimes you look back and you're like disgusted to say, "Oh, I can't believe this was the person that I was like crying over," Or sometimes you look back and you're like, "What? Like I did that," So journaling to me is perfect. Like it's really, really perfect. It's such a perfect thing to do.
Earlier you'd said about how like depression and mental health basically like wreak havoc on people's memory, and if you've got any kind of like mental health stuff, like journaling is literally the best because of that same reason that you're saying. Because oftentimes, there's battles that we win and we don't, because we've journaled it, we forget about it, and to go back and to read and you're like, God damn, I am that bitch.
Let me tell you that my year in London, like sometimes like on my notes app, before I actually started buying books, I used to do it on my notes app. I go through those. Some of them I deleted because I was like, this is a bit too dark and I don't want this energy. But some of them I kept them because I was like, damn, like I was really going through some stuff. I remember I was in law school and basically like I was behind on my payments because some of it the student loan was paying, some of it I was funding myself. So I used to like work in catering and we used to do shifts from like 2 p.m. till like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then after that I'd go home, rest a bit, wake up early to catch the bus because I didn't have enough to catch the tube. So I'd catch a bus. But anyway, then I'd get to school or whatever, postgrad, whatever. And then they would bombard me to say, listen, you haven't paid, you've stopped access to this, yada, yada, yada. So one frame of mind is like, okay, let's push through and get these grades. The other frame of mind is like, girl, like, they want your ass. So I used to like take notes, and I think there's a note that I took after I went to the finance office there, in London, and I was like, listen, I'm really struggling. Is there any way that I can like, just finish my exams, at least just finish my exams and finish my studying, and then we'll sort out the money issues. Because my dad had also accepted like a payment plan, all these kind of, because it was a huge chunk of money that they wanted us to pay like right there and then. So anyway, I wrote down like some notes in the lift after that conversation that I had with them and the response that I got back from them. And I just read it and it literally just said, I just want to be happy. And I go back to that note like a lot because I'm so happy. Like, not even sound corny. Like, obviously, there are things that are just like, I want to lose weight, I want to have this, but I'm genuinely so happy. Like, I'm so happy. I can't even touch it. I can't even describe how happy I am. I can't even like put like a description or whatever. But I go back to that note often when I'm feeling like I'm not as happy, just to remind myself of like where I've been, where I'm coming from and the journey, that I had to take to get here. So as much as people might not understand, why would you leave, like, obviously we can't say first world and third world, but why would you leave a first world country to come to a third world country with no plans, no nothing? I wish I could just even give them like a percentage of the happiness that I'm feeling, to be like, listen, just feel it. Just wear this for a day and tell me, would you do what I've done? So yeah, I went a bit of tangent there, but journaling, that's how important it is to me. Like, that's how important it is to me, because I also use it as a reflection to go back, like sometimes even when I'm drunk, like I'm out, I'll write something in my notes app, whatever, and then I look back in the morning, I'm like, yo, what? So, but yeah, journaling is a big deal for me.
What's been I love the joy that you're feeling. Like, I love that. I love that for you, sincerely and deeply.
Thank you.
What's been like, what's the surprising thing about happiness that you're finding out now that you're happy?
It's up to you. Like, happiness is totally up to you. Like, it's not anyone else's like job. It's not anyone else's like thing to sort out. Happiness is so personal. There are things that make me happy that other people are like, it's not that much of a big deal. But for example, I was with my friends the other day, and I love questions. Like I just love finding out about people. So I was with my friends, a bunch of girls, and I said, let's play a question game and let's not make it sexual, because you know how it is. Most of the time, the questions they go sexual. She was like, no, not today. Let's play a question game. So just ask us each other questions. So I asked them, like, just your top 5 happy moments, right? And my friends are like, no, I can talk to things. I mean, areas of my life. They say, okay, I'm happy that I received Christ. I'm happy. I'm like, no, like your actual top 5 happiest moments. And not to say that, they're sad people or they're going through depression. They were just like, no, I don't have, like a top 5. But for me, I was like, I can make like a top 20. Like, like I genuinely like enjoy I try to find happiness in everything. Like even in my day, even if I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm having a terrible day, but later on I'm gonna go for a drive and I'm gonna go to like my favorite park. I try to find happiness in everything. But what I've learned is happiness is my job. Like I can't depend on someone else to make me happy. I can't depend on the things of the world to make me happy. I can't depend on money. I can't depend on anything. Happiness is what I see joy in. So it could be as simple as like the other day I saw a car wrapped in Gucci, and I just laughed to myself. I was like, what? What is that?
I can imagine your excitement.
Honestly, like I am every person that gets into my car, I'm like, I'm such a dramatic driver. Like I can drive past the place and be like, we're stopping here. People were like, but I'm like, no, I want to see what's going on in that building, that kind of thing. So I think what I've learned about happiness is it's up to me to and not to attach happiness to anything. It's difficult because, for example, if I don't know, like say for example, if you're dating, whatever, you might attach your happiness to that person because that's how they make you feel. But I really try to like, find happiness by myself and, not attach it to anything, anyone, anything, that can just be here tomorrow. I mean, be here today and be gone tomorrow. But yeah, happiness essentially is my own job. I can't put that to somebody else. I have to find.
It's just you're dripping in joy, and I fucking love it. I'm here for all of it. Like literally, I'm here for all of it, and I think I don't know.
My friend Michael, he's like, it's so funny because you're like the most positive person that I know. And to me, it's weird because I don't view like for some time back, maybe some months back, I was having an argument with him. I said, I feel like I'm quite pessimistic. And I think it's because there was a period of my life where I was really pessimistic and really like just not a nice person to be around, like especially when I moved to London. And that's when me and him started to become like really close friends, like actually like I can call him up and say, yo, I'm going through this, whatever. So anyway, that's still, I think deep down, that's the view that I still kind of have on even though I know that I'm not there. So we were arguing. I was like, no, I'm gonna take this to Instagram. And not even one person said I'm not, like everyone was like happy, So look, he's actually calling me right now. But let me just put this on silence. That's so weird.
Speaking of the devil.
Yeah. It was so weird for me because I realized that I still view myself as like a really like pessimistic person, not a happy person. Like deep down, even though I know mentally, no, you're not there, whatever. But I think that was really reaffirming because I put that poll up, and obviously I'm not saying it's like facts or whatever, but everyone, there was not even one person that voted like, no, you're not happy, or like you don't, whatever. Everyone's like, no, you seem happy. And then when on my birthday, he was like, you literally are the most positive person that I know. And I was like, what? That's crazy to me. And I realized I'm not pessimistic. I'm very like, I don't have to put it, like if I don't want to do something, I don't want to do it. And if I want to do something, I'm gonna do it. So it's not to say that like whatever. It's just a thing of like, if I feel like something is down, I'll be like, no, I'm not doing that because X, Y,
You know
Z.
what you
But
want.
yeah, I was quite shocked. I know what I want.
You know what you want.
But I was
you're happy with it. Nah, that's literally the funniest thing. Like, that's literally funny. That's funny. What is your recipe for joy at the moment?
My recipe for joy at the moment is sunshine. So sorry to all you guys in the UK, but sunshine, independence, and choosing yourself.
Love that. Love that.
Oh, and good music. Sorry, I forgot good music. So that's 4 ingredients.
I love that.
Interchangeable.
It's various amounts.
No
measuring necessary.
Yeah, no measuring. Just go with what you feel is necessary. Because choosing yourself also sometimes means choosing somebody else. In terms of like choosing yourself is not always choosing yourself literally, but sometimes you have to choose somebody else to choose yourself. In terms of like when it comes to dealing with like family and that kind of stuff, you have to choose somebody else in order to choose yourself. So you have to give a part of yourself, you know, in order for the greater outcome. So it's not most of the time it obviously does mean choose yourself, but I feel like, you know, you have to realize that the world doesn't revolve around you, and you do have to give parts of yourself to, you know, to engage in the world, you know. But yeah, sunshine, choosing yourself, good music, and choose. What did I say? What the heck? What did I say? What's the other one?
Choosing yourself by choosing others.
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful. I think that's so beautiful. Because I think self-care and all of that, sometimes we think of it in a very like individualistic way, but man is not an island.
I want to pose the same question to you.
My recipe for happiness at the moment is it feels quite contradictory because there's movement, there's stillness, there's reflection, there's creation. Because I think that I can't, if I'm not creating in what sense, in whatever sense or the other, like if I'm not being intentional with how I'm using my time, I don't find joy. So creating, movement, play, and also community. Yeah, and community. Because I think I'm learning that while one does not need external validation, in that sense, sometimes it's the other's validation of us that makes us real. Yeah, but does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Yeah. Like sometimes, I think my recipe for joy or happiness is really moving away from this idea that joy happens in a vacuum where if you're just by yourself in a corner, then you're going to be happy. You know what I mean? Because you know, I've been really reflecting a lot about like boundaries and what does that actually mean for joy and for what does that actually mean? And sometimes the boundaries actually act as wars. They act as wars rather than as acting as like I don't want to say lubrication because the word feels weird, but that idea of like boundaries as something that like slime on a snail, you know what I mean?
So I think I definitely get it, because it's like as much as, you know, we want to live isolated and whatever, it's impossible to do. So even you are going to have to knock down your walls sometimes. It's not to say your boundaries are like made of concrete that is like, you know, never immovable, whatever, because just navigating yourself in the world, you realize that there's some places where I have the upper hand, there's some places that I don't, you know. Like for like that thing I was saying earlier, to acknowledge for me, a part of moving here was acknowledging my privilege, you know. Because obviously some people are like, maybe you only got the job because you have a British accent, but then on the other, which is maybe true, or that I studied overseas, but at the end of the day, what is that degree if I can't do the work that's actually being done? You know, and I worked, you know, incredibly hard when I got to that position, because I was like, listen, you know, I want to stay here and I want to have a job. So I think if I then, you know, had boundaries, I would have just been like, no, but I have a British accent, so I'm better than everyone, whatever. But I mean, not boundaries, but that wall, you know, had been up. Yeah, whereas I had to acknowledge that even if you do have that accent or that you know, British degree, what does it mean? what's the point? You still have to put in work like everybody else. So I think definitely, like, as much as you'd like to believe that the world revolves around us, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us on Gyre.
Thank you. It was such a lovely talk, because I was studying, so it was a nice break. But yeah, no, thank you, and I wish you all the best going forward. And I can't wait to see the other episodes, and to see growth and fruition and joy and everything and good vibes.